Hi there, it's great to be here, and today I'm chatting with Monika, and Monika is the president of Waikato University Law Students Association. Great to see you, Monika.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, Steve. This is really awesome. Great
Yeah,
to be here.
no, that's good to have you here. We were just chatting before. Monika's down in sunny Waikato on a lovely rural site, so I'm a bit envious. So, hey, thank you. As we were discussing previously, it's really important to get your thoughts and also the people and the students that you are interacting with, because it's a really vital topic, thinking about where law is going and how we collectively can look at informing how we want it to be in the future. So the legal profession has changed considerably, I know, in the last few years, and of course COVID's come along, but even prior to COVID, what are your thoughts about what might be happening for the future?
Yeah, well, it was actually really good. So last week we had the Women in Law Association at my university put on a pink ribbon breakfast, and we had a lot of really incredible female lawyers from the local area come in and sort of talk to us about their experiences with it, and especially being a female within the law sort of sector. And it was really interesting to sort of see how COVID has sort of affected their ability to balance their family and just that work-life balance. So I think that COVID provides, for all the sort of harms and detriments that have come with COVID, I think it provides the legal profession a really good opportunity to take a look at the work-life balance that we have within that profession, and sort of thinking about how we can shift from, spending 12 hours a day within a law firm confined to a desk sort of thing, to being more flexible around that, which is especially important to me as a young woman, I guess, coming through into this sort of profession. Sort of listening to these ladies' experiences about how, they've had to step out of meetings to go and pick up their kids from school, or go and, emergencies that come up with the kids that, their husbands or partners sort of aren't expected to deal with, but they do have to. That was a really sort of interesting insight into the intersection, I guess, between, gender and the legal profession. So I think that moving forward, we're going to be able to see a lot more flexibility around that, which I think is going to bode really well for the legal profession in terms of seeing a rise in female partners and stuff, which I think will be really cool, because giving people that more sort of flexibility, I think, is going to work really well with people, and not just women, but other people as well, that do have to balance those sort of work-life commitments. So I think that's sort of the way we're heading at the moment, which is really great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right, aren't you? I think what COVID did was force many of us onto technology and really forced us. I think it was coming slowly, but it really gave that impetus to think, how can we work differently?
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of provided the sort of catalyst, I guess, for those sort of changes that we've sort of seen slowly coming over the last few years, with just the increase in the betterment of technology, I guess, and we've really had that sort of, it hasn't been a choice anymore. We've sort of had to adapt to that, and I think that's going to be really well. That's going to be really great for the legal profession in the next few years, sort of seeing where we can go from that, now that everyone's a bit more being forced to become familiar with programs such as Zoom and that sort of thing.
Totally. No, I'd agree. So what do you see as also some of the challenges, I guess, across the board for law?
I think the main sort of challenge that I've seen a lot this year through my role as WALSA president, and just sort of dealing with the law and sort of students coming through my university at the moment, would be working towards sort of the decolonisation of New Zealand law, and sort of looking at how we can better incorporate Te Ao Māori within the legal system. And as well as that, sort of a separate but connected issue, how can we make the legal profession, I think, work and feel like a welcoming environment for young Māori lawyers. When we recently had the NZLSA conference, we had the student representative from Te Hongaroia Māori come and talk to us about how we can sort of make these spaces available for Māori law students, and how we can sort of work to support them and sort of further that. And that was a really sort of interesting and very valuable discussion to have, I think, because it's been something that's been quite a big sort of aspect of my presidency this year, and sort of working out, coming from Waikato as well. Obviously our university has quite a big focus on sort of biculturalism in its own right, and so I think sort of looking at what the law can sort of evolve to incorporate Te Ao Māori and tikanga more, I think will be a really good sort of challenge to sink our teeth into in the next sort of wee while. I think would be really cool to see.
Yeah. Challenges there, but also as sort of takes us into the next comment, great opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, and the more that we can sort of start within law schools, providing that support to Māori law students that are coming through and sort of building those close relationships with Māori law students associations and sort of bringing in more consultation and sort of having that Māori voice from start to finish with our events, with everything that, WALSA and the other law students societies are putting on. I think it's really going to sort of provide an opportunity for us to see more Māori lawyers coming through our system in the future, which I think is going to really work towards that ultimate sort of goal of getting more consultation with Māori into the legal system.
Yeah. So Monika, you've mentioned a couple of great opportunities, one around ensuring that from a gender perspective and flexibility perspective, technology and the way we operate, great opportunities there. Same from a bicultural perspective. Any other areas you think that could pop up that will give us some great opportunities to step into?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think we're in a really sort of transitional phase at the moment, I guess, with the sort of move to being online and sort of changing just how we think about the legal profession and studying law as a whole thing. And, I do really hope that we are going to be able to see a more sort of flexible and more inclusive and therefore diverse, sort of group of lawyers moving through the systems at the moment and stuff. And I really like, for me personally, I think it's really important to sort of work towards dismantling the idea that, your degree is only worth something if you study at, the two bigger sort of law schools. I've lived in Waikato my entire life, and I had to deal with, at high school, I had teachers tell me that if I stayed here to study that I wasn't going to get anywhere, essentially, and that, when all the teachers wore their graduation robes at the end of the year, they'd always judge the ones that went to Waikato. And, I really regret not standing up to that teacher and telling her, well, look, hey, you're all teaching at the same school now anyway. Yeah. But, it's been sort of hard to deal with the fact that you're often seen as lesser than because you're not studying at one of the more competitive sort of bigger universities. And I think sort of getting rid of that is going to be really cool. Throughout my presidency, I've sort of had the idea that I've tried to push through my role that there's no right way to be a law student. Like I've received a lot of sort of I've had interactions with students, especially from other universities, that have been sort of along the lines of, oh, I don't know why I have to talk to you because you're not from my university, or you're not doing a conjoint degree, or you're not in the honours program. And sort of, I think that puts a lot of pressure on law students, if you feel as though, you're not getting those straight A pluses or something, that you're going to struggle for the rest of your career. But the more, as I sort of get towards the end of my degree and sort of talk to more professionals and stuff, they look for so much more than those straight A pluses and those sort of things that, a lot of students think are the be all and end all of that sort of degree. And I think we can do a lot for like the mental health of students just by showing that, you can be successful even if you, have a few C's, or, you're a B student, or all those sorts of things. I think we can sort of do a lot for that. Like I know a lot of people who, like in WALSA, myself included, that's really struggle with imposter syndrome, and I know that's quite a big issue within the legal profession. And I think we've got a lot of scope right now with the sort of awareness that's coming out around mental health to sort of do more for young lawyers, especially graduates that, sort of finish law school and then are stuck, thinking that working 8 to 8 or whatever it is a normal thing to do. And I think, that's why we see a lot of burnout in this profession with people that sort of graduate and do a year or two in a firm, especially the bigger firms, and then just can't do it anymore. And I think the profession's losing out on a lot of potentially really great lawyers because that burnout is just happening too quickly, and it's putting them off the profession indefinitely. So I'd really like to see more done within that space as well. I think would be a really cool thing to do.
Great, well said. So in there, you had some great advice for law students and people entering the profession. If you were giving any advice or any thoughts or any insights to those who have been around a while, been in the profession for some time, what comments or what ideas or thoughts would you give them?
So people who are practicing.
Yes, and
Well,
perhaps, the more senior end who have come through a system that's slightly different, or, might hold some different
yeah.
ways of being. As someone embarking on your career, what would you ask of them?
I think just to humanize it a bit more, like sort of humanize the profession. Like I think, especially because obviously law is a profession where it's very staggered, I guess, in terms of the hierarchy. You come in as a grad, and then you've got certain amounts of PQE before you can sort of build your way up there. And obviously it's associate, partner, all those sort of things. And it can be really hard, I think, as a young person coming into the sort of field to sort of see yourself being able to move through that and sort of see partners as real people too, not just workaholic sort of machines that are just legal robots essentially. So I think people who have been in the profession a long time, I think, can really do their part for the younger generation of lawyers, I guess, by just showing that they're human too. I know I really appreciate when we did a lot of events with College of Law actually over lockdown, where they the careers insight sessions, and those were really helpful because we had a lot of lawyers, and we had questions about what do you look for in a grad, oh, I've got a couple of B's or C's, like, is that going to affect me? And to be able to hear from those lawyers like, hey, I didn't actually do that well in this paper, or like, hey, like, I wasn't actually involved with this, or I wasn't in the honours program. It's really reassuring to know that they've still reached that point in their career without sort of having necessarily that that straight first class honours sort of thing. So I think, humanizing it a bit more makes it feel a bit more in reach for us and gives us a bit more hope.
Well said. I think connecting with humans, and as you said, being human. Your own personal hopes. What are you hoping in?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see all of the stuff that I've sort of talked about this whole time, I guess, that we can essentially create a legal profession that is really diverse and inclusive, and where people aren't afraid to sort of say, like, when they're struggling, or what their experiences were really like through law school in those first sort of graduation like post-grad years, as I think that's all very important to build a profession in which people's mental health and stuff comes before working those long days and all that sort of stuff. I'm not too sure what I want to do when I finish, but I hope that it's something that I can sort of make a difference with. I think we have a lot of scope for that in these sort of areas in this legal profession. It's why a lot of us go into it. So just, see how it goes, and hopefully we can sort of contribute to the diversity and inclusion that we are seeing come through.
Thank you, Monika. It's really great to hear your commentary, and I'm really encouraged and enthusiastic about what yourself and all those other great students are bringing into law. And I encourage you, keep pushing and keep agitating. And the world is evolving, isn't it? And I think if we can amalgamate, as what you have said, which can be a great profession, but also a sense of community and a sense of being human, then what a great aspiration to work towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming from the university that I come from, Waikato, obviously we really do have that sense of community that I think a lot of other universities could learn a lot from. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see how we sort of work towards that. Obviously I worked with the NZLSA this year, and I know they've got some really good like long-term, like 5-year goals sort of thing in place, and one of those is to foster that collaborative culture as in all of the law schools and as a law student body nationwide. So hopefully we can see some really cool stuff sort of happen in that area, because I think it is needed. I don't like feeling that we've all been pitted against each other, especially in terms of obviously there's a lot of graduates coming out of universities in this area, and you see it a lot when people are applying for clerkships and stuff, and there might be 10 roles and 700, 800 if not more people applying for these roles, and it can feel a bit lonely, I guess, sometimes, in that you think that everyone's you're all racing against each other, but I don't think it has to be like that. And I think when we can sort of start moving towards a more collaborative approach, that we're going to find that we have better lawyers because of it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hey, really appreciate your time. I won't keep you too long. Go and enjoy that great Waikato countryside.
Absolutely will.
Nice to chat, and have a good weekend.
You too.
And that's us wrapping up.